What's up, Out the Mud? It's your girl, Monica. So it's time to make the decoction. You guys have been hearing me use that term in the last couple of videos. A decoction is basically the extraction of the essence of something. So I am going to put these herbs, these intentionally sourced herbs, into a carrier oil. Now, decoctions can be made with water. You'll hear a lot of people using that term when it comes to making herbal tea. But in our case, we're making soap. So I'm using a carrier oil, and the carrier oil I've chosen to use for this decoction is the grapeseed oil. Now, all of these things are going to be ingredients in my soap. And remember, my soap is being made for a very targeted audience of people who are suffering from eczema symptoms and need relief. So this soap, I'm not going to make any claims about what this soap can do, but I'm going to go really heavy on the marketing of the ingredients that I'm using and the intentionality behind why I chose which herbs, which oils, and all of the things. So I start with the crock pot. The crock pot is going to give me a very, very low heat. You don't want, when making a decoction, you don't want to super heat up things super fast and, potentially damage some of the essence that's in the herbs that you're trying to extract. You want this to be a slow, low process. So I am going to first and foremost measure out my grapeseed oil. I went with, I think it was 2.5 cups initially. And then I was like, I looked in the crock pot and that wasn't enough. So I added some more. And this is a good time for me to remind you to write this stuff down. Get a notepad and write down what you're doing, because a lot of this stuff you're going to be doing from the seat of your pants like I am. And you want to know exactly what you did so that if it turns out good, you can replicate it. Or if you want to, make some changes, you'll know where to start. So I add the grapeseed oil to my crock pot. I make sure the setting is on warm. That is the lowest setting that you could actually have on this particular crock pot. And then from there, now it's time for me to get my herbs. So my first herb is comfrey. Now, comfrey this is a root. So this particular root I got from Star West Botanicals, and look up comfrey. You'll see that comfrey roots contain this substance called allantoin. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But that particular substance helps new skin cells grow and keep inflammation down and keep the skin healthy. So that's why comfrey, it was one of the herbs that I discovered in the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. And it was also mentioned in that abstract that I found from the National Institute of Health. So you see where research meets application. So as an entrepreneur, I'm going to keep preaching at you. It's so important for you to do your research, because a lot of people won't. And that will sometimes make the difference in your product and theirs, right? That will be your unique selling proposition, is that, you've done your research, you know which herbs work, and that's why you've chosen those particular herbs in the development of your product. Now let's go back a second and talk about why I chose grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil is high in vitamin E and linoleic acid. Now, these things are important because they help reduce inflammation and it hydrates the skin. So that's why I want this oil incorporated in my soap, because of those qualities. Now, you add to that the fact that we're doing this decoction with this comfrey root, and you're going to get a very potent, skin-loving set of ingredients that hopefully result in some positive outcomes for people who use this soap. So let's go on to the next herb, echinacea. This echinacea is so important. I'm adding that to this decoction because it also hydrates the skin and it boosts collagen production. So, and it also kind of protects the skin by adding an extra layer of moisture. So that's important to me. I want this soap to be very moisturizing, very creamy. That's why I'm using goat's milk with the lye instead of water, because I want to be intentional about every single ingredient that goes in this soap to make it the absolute best possible bar of soap that it could be for my target audience. So as you can see here, I'm kind of smelling the echinacea. Each of these has its own unique kind of smell. You could definitely tell they are fresh. It's very pungent. So I'm really hoping that this, scent doesn't overpower the soap, because I still have essential oils that I'm going to be using as the natural fragrance of the soap. So I'm putting the echinacea in, and so I'm going to give it a nice stir so that everything can kind of combine. Again, it's on a very low setting. It's on the warm setting on my crock pot, and I'm going to let this sit for a day. And then once this does what it's going to do, the grapeseed oil already has like a light green color. I'm going to be interested to see how the color of the oil changes once I strain the herbs from it and then begin to prepare it for the, for the soap mixture. So I'm super excited. So this is going to be a little bit of a process. I'm going to have to come back and finish this video once the day has passed, because I want this to happen for at least 24 hours on a very low heat. I'm not going to be bothering it at all. And I added enough grapeseed oil in here so that if I do lose some volume for whatever reason due to the heat, then I will still have enough to incorporate into my soap recipe, which brings me to our next upcoming video. We're going to take a look at the soap calculator to see what I need to do to ensure that the ingredients result in a very creamy, hydrating, and moisturizing bar of soap. I don't want a soap that's going to leave the skin dry. I want a bar of soap that ultimately will be, creamy and moisturizing, but then at the same time, not too soft and mushy. So we're going to play around with the soap calculator in the next video so you guys can take a look at how to craft your recipe. But this has been like a really awesome process. Waiting on everything to come in has so far been the longest of the process. Speaking of which, for those of you guys in my class, How to Start a Farm in 6 Months, you know about labor. We've already talked about the importance of that when we get ready to price our soap. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we don't take into account the amount of time that we spend doing things. How much time did we spend researching? How much time did we spend shopping? How much time do we actually spend developing the product? So what I want you to do is to do what I'm doing here. And just when you're doing stuff for your soap or your product, whatever it is you're making, take note of your start and end time. And if you're like me and you don't remember to look at the clock, when you're doing your videos, there's always going to be a timestamp or a photo on your phone. There will always be a time and date stamp. So look and see when that first photo was taken. Make that your start time, and then look and see when the last photo or video of your process was, and that will be your end time. And hopefully you are remembering to do this, because that's a very important part of building your audience, okay, for your product. And we're talking about that too in class when it comes to your social media. We're going to get all of that set up. You're going to start to let them in on the back office, so to speak, behind the scenes of you doing these things. So that's why it's important for you to take videos like the ones that you see here in this video, so that you can share it with your future audience and be able to start to build your wait list for your product. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you guys how to do and how to start a farm in 6 months. So for those of you guys who are enrolled in the class, I'm super excited for you to see me make my first batch live. That's going to be next week. I have to unfortunately go out of town this weekend for a funeral, but I will be back, and next week we will start making soap. So I'll see y'all then, and have a great day. Talk to you on the next one. Peace.